So let's start by pronouncing the vowels of English. E, E, B, B. There's a bee on the flower. There's a bee on the flower. E, E. Happy, happy. She's very happy. She's very happy. Now this sound you will not find in the British phonemic chart. It is not represented there because it is the same sound as the one we just looked at in B. The difference here is that E with the 2 dots is a longer vowel. The shorter version without the dots, E, is pronounced the same way, but you will find it more commonly at the end of words. So instead of saying happy, we say happy. So it's the same position, but it's just shorter. I, I. Sit, sit. Sit on the seat. Sit on the seat. Ooh, ooh. Book, book. I bought a book. I bought a book. Ooh, ooh. Food, food. I want some food. I want some food. Bed, bed. I made the bed. I made the bed. Doctor, doctor. The doctor was helping the patient. The doctor was helping the patient. Bird, bird. The bird flew away. The bird flew away. Or, law, law. The law is clear. The law is clear. Cat, cat. I have a black cat. I have a black cat. Much, much. How much is that? How much is that? Car, car. She parked the car. She parked the car. Or. Dog, dog. The dog saw a frog. The dog saw a frog. Now we're going to move on to the diphthongs. The diphthongs are where we have 2 vowel sounds together to produce one sound. So you will find them in just one syllable. For example, ear is comprised of the sounds I and ear, ear. Hear, hear. I can hear you. I can hear you. A, day, day. Today is a new day. Today is a new day. Tour, tour. They went on a tour. They went on a tour. Now, if you find this sound quite difficult, or maybe you've even heard some people say it this way, you can change the sound to or. So instead of saying tour, you can say tour. So words like sure become sure. Are you sure? Are you sure? Is there a cure? Is there a cure? He was furious. He was furious. So if you hear some native speakers from England changing that ua to or, you now know and you can understand them better. Oi. Oi. Boy. Boy. The boy was playing. The boy was playing. Oh. Oh. Go. Go. Let's go to the show. Let's go to the show. Now the sound O definitely sounds more like received pronunciation, and some speakers may interpret it as sounding a little bit posh. Oh no. So what you may hear more speakers using, and more commonly you're going to hear this, is O. O. So the difference here is just how open your mouth is. You have O. 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 It's a very subtle difference, but people will definitely hear it. Air. Air. Hair. Hair. Her hair is long. Her hair is long. So when we say air, it's definitely more received pronunciation. So some people, again, may interpret it as sounding a little bit posh. What you might hear some people say is air. So instead of saying air and relaxing to do that second sound, we just keep the first sound going and just make it longer. So hair sounds like hair. Hair. So let's compare the difference. Her hair is long. Her hair is long. It's subtle, but again, people will be able to hear that difference. I. Why. Why. Why are you learning English? Why are you learning English? Ow. Ow. Cow. Cow. The cow is brown. The cow is brown. Now we're going to practice pronouncing all of the consonant sounds in British English. P. P. Pen. Pen. May I borrow a pen? May I borrow a pen? B. B. Bat. Bat. I saw a bat. I saw a bat. T. T. Top. Top. I like your top. I like your top. Now you will not find this sound in the British phonemic chart, but I really wanted to include it because a lot of students ask about it. This sound is called the glottal stop, and you can make this by saying the phrase uh-oh, uh-oh. When you feel that closure here, uh-oh, that is this sound. That's the glottal stop. It is considered a non-standard sound. However, I'm teaching it because for sure you're going to hear people using it. For sure, I've used it during this video, probably without even realizing it's that common. So let's have a practice. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. You may hear people using it in words like city and saying city. Better, better. Water, water. Now, it is considered a non-standard sound, and some people sadly do look down on this sound and regard it as uneducated and things like that. It's really an outdated viewpoint, but a lot of people use it. You will hear it, especially when traveling around the UK or talking to native speakers from the UK. It's a very common sound. So you don't have to use this sound, but please do learn it so you can understand it. So in a sentence, uh-oh, I forgot my keys. Uh-oh, I forgot. There's one there. I forgot my keys. D. Door. Door. The door is locked. The door is locked. Ch. Cheese. Cheese. She ate some cheese. She ate some cheese. Judge. Judge. The judge made a decision. The judge made a decision. Kick. Kick. They kicked the ball. They kicked the ball. Great. Great. It's a great day. It's a great day. Fish. Fish. There are many fish. There are many fish. Van. Van. He drives a van. He drives a van. Thin. Thin. The thin stick broke. The thin stick broke. This. This. This is his desk. This is his desk. Something interesting for you to know about these two sounds is that many native speakers in the UK, especially if they're speaking quite quickly or depending on their accent or if they're feeling a bit lazy and they can't be bothered to articulate, they may change these to a f and v. So words like think sound like think and mother sounds like mother. Now, you definitely don't need to change these and pronounce them in this way, but you will hear it, which is why I'm bringing it up here. I want you to be able to understand native speakers in England, so this is a very important thing. So pay attention. The next time you hear native speakers from England, from the UK talking, you may hear them saying things like, what do you think? Instead of, what do you think? Snake. Snake. The snake hissed. The snake hissed. Z. Z. Zebra. Zebra. Or, if you want to learn American English, zebra. Zebra. So zebra is British, zebra is American. The zebra has stripes. The zebra has stripes. Shh. Shh. Shoe. Shoe. Put on your shoes. Put on your shoes. Zh. Zh. Measure. Measure. I need to measure the room. I need to measure the room. So watch out for these 4 sounds. We have ch, sh, j, j. So those second ones are longer. We can hold the sound for longer. Man. Man. The man smiled. The man smiled. Now. Now. Now is the time. Now is the time. Sing. Sing. So carefully you're not releasing this. It's not sink or sing. There are some accents where they do something similar to that. So like sing, they may say something like sing. Okay, depends on the accent, but train yourself to hold it. Sing. Sing. The bird is singing. The bird is singing. Now these 3 sounds that we've just looked at are nasal sounds. English has only 3 nasal sounds. To ensure that you're doing a nasal sound, what you can do is pinch your nose as you're saying those sounds. For example, if the sound changes, then that means the sound is coming out of your nose and you're doing the nasal sound correctly. Hat. Hat. I like your hat. I like your hat. La. La. Love. Love. I love you. I love you. Oh. Oh. Call. Call. Please call me. Please call me. Now this sound, you'll notice that it is in different brackets. And this because it's an allophone. And an allophone, to not confuse you at this stage because this is your first pronunciation lesson, an allophone is a more specific representation of a phoneme. Oh my goodness, I may have lost you now, but what we are using here to represent these sounds are phonemes. They are the most general representation of the sound. These are phonemes. When we want to give a more specific representation of a sound, we will use something called allophones. So phonemes are the general representation, while allophones are the more specific representation. This is why we have the square brackets rather than the slash brackets. You will not find this sound in the British phonemic chart, and that's because it's an allophone of L, which we looked at before in the word love. So if you check the dictionary, you will see words like call being transcribed like this, with the L symbol that we looked at before. However, to make things a bit easier and to distinguish between a L sound and an O sound, I sometimes use this symbol here. So your teachers may use it as well, and you may see it in your books, your textbooks and course books. So now you know the difference. The difference between these two L sounds is that the first one is a light L. This one comes before a vowel sound, like love, light, lucky, while the second one is what's called a dark L. This one comes after a vowel sound. So for example, fell, call, people. I don't say fell, call, people. I'm not releasing it like the light L. So it's a slightly different sound. R, r, red, red. He has a red car. He has a red car. Now be really careful with this sound that you're not pronouncing it as red or red. Your tongue doesn't touch the top of your mouth in English for this sound. It's r, r. So make sure your tongue is down. It's not touching the top of your mouth. Red, red. You hear the difference? Red. It's not touching the top of my mouth, is my tongue. W, w. Well, well. I don't feel very well. I don't feel very well. Yeah. 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 Yellow. Yellow. The flower is yellow. The flower is yellow. Now you're going to learn how to use basic sentence stress, intonation, and rhythm in British English. I'm going to teach you some pretty general standard rules here, but do bear in mind that if you travel to different places within the UK, you may hear different varieties, different accents, different intonation and rhythm patterns. Just bear that in mind, okay? Let's start with the basics. So English is a stress-timed language. What is a stress-timed language, I hear you ask? It means that the language follows a very particular rhythm. So we have certain words that are given more emphasis, more stress, than others. So you end up listening to something like wah wah wah, wah 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 wah, wah 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 wah. And this is why sometimes when you're listening to native speakers or watching your favorite TV shows, you understand some words more than others. This is because some words are emphasized more to fit the rhythm, and the other words in between those stressed emphasized words get said very quickly and very weakly as well. So the sounds also change to make it quicker for us to say them. And we do this because it needs to fit a particular rhythm. Let me show you an example. I will scooch over here so there's space. We have mice eat cheese. Stress, stress, stress. Nothing changes. But now listen to this. The mice eat the cheese. The mice eat the cheese. Notice that I'm not saying the mice eat the cheese. Not every single word is stressed. I'm only focusing on the more important words. And the get weakened. Now this one, the mice are eating the cheese. The mice are eating the cheese. I'm not saying the mice are eating the cheese. I'm not stressing every syllable in English. That's because we need to give more priority to certain syllables in those important words. Everything else gets weakened. So notice that the mice are eating. No, the mice are eating. It gets weakened. Remember before I said that some words change to make them faster to say. And this is a perfect example of that. So how do you know which words in English to stress? Why do we say mice are strong, but becomes and the becomes the? Why do these become weak, but these words become strong? Well, that's because we can divide the language into two categories. We can divide the language into content words and function words. Some people also call these structure words, just in case you see it in other videos or with your teacher or in a textbook. Content words are important words that carry content. They carry meaning. Your structure or function words are the little words that we use for grammatical structure. So content words are nouns, verbs, adverbs, adjectives, negative auxiliary verbs and modal verbs, and question words like who, what, why, when, etc. All of these have strong forms and they will be stressed in a sentence. Function words include articles, prepositions, pronouns, conjunctions, and modal verbs and auxiliary verbs in the affirmative form. So when they're negative, they're usually stressed, but when they're not negative, when they're positive, we can pronounce them in a weaker and quicker way. So the interesting thing about structure words is that they have two forms, a strong form and a weak form. The strong form is one that you may use for emphasis. You may also use it for contrast, or you may use it when the word is in isolation. The weak form is used in sentences, so it's quicker and easier to say. So if we take the verb are from the verb to be, are is the strong form, but is the weak form. Are you ready? Are you ready? Notice the difference. Here I'm really emphasizing it. Are you ready? Are you going? But here, are you ready? Are you going? It's much quicker and it sounds much more natural. So now I want you to read some sentences and practice your pronunciation. You can practice the sounds that you've learned today as well as the sentence stress that you've just learnt now. Here's the first sentence. I live in the north of Italy. I live in the north of Italy. So notice on those stressed words, your intonation goes up. I live in the north of Italy. And then it goes back down at the end because we're finishing the sentence. Here's another one. Think about the stress here. I love going to the beach in summer. I love going to the beach in summer. I love going to the beach in summer. How about this one? The bus drove round and round the city. The bus drove round and round the city. So notice with and, I'm not saying round and round, but round and round. So sometimes we don't just change the sounds to make them weaker, we can cut some sounds in the weak forms, so watch out for that. And the final one. Can I have a small piece of cake? Can I have a small piece of cake? So can, I'm not going to pronounce it as the strong form. Can I have a small piece of cake? But can I have a small piece of cake? Can I have a small piece of cake? And that is everything you need to know about how to pronounce. So what you may have noticed about the RP and modern RP accents is that the R's are mostly silent. And it looks like a random rule for when they're pronounced or not pronounced, but there are rules. So when we have the letter R plus a vowel sound after it, we pronounce it. For example, red, around, rule. So you see, all of these have this R sound. I'll talk about the pronunciation of this a bit more. I just want to talk mostly about this removing the R's and when is it silent. So red, already, rule, we pronounce those R's. There is one exception to this rule and it's the word iron. So notice I don't say iron or iron, but iron, iron. When we have an R and then a consonant sound after it, or that R is at the end of a word, or you have the spelling RE, for example, then we don't pronounce it. For example, word, girl, more, far. word, girl, more, far. So I'm not pronouncing it like word, girl, more, far. That sounds a little bit more American. Now the next sound is the most common sound in British English. It is the famous schwa. No doubt you've heard of it, maybe you know what it is. If you don't worry, we'll talk about it now. It's basically the most relaxed sound. You don't do anything, which is a bit weird for some people, but seriously, don't do anything. That's it. That's the schwa. And it is used only in weak syllables. You will never find a stressed schwa. You will more commonly find it at the end of words, especially if they have an R or an RE spelling, like centre, matter, better. So I'm not saying centre, matter, better. I'm not saying that R. That's more of an American English feature. Centre, really relax it. Centre, matter, better. In a sentence, the centre is better. The centre, relax it, is better. You'll find that we use a lot of diphthongs at the ends of words in British English compared to American English. Diphthongs are essentially when you have two vowel sounds together in one syllable. For example, ear, care, tour. So I'm not saying ear, care, tour, but ear, care, tour. Now, one difference between received pronunciation and modern received pronunciation is with those two final diphthongs. So, for example, that second one, in received pronunciation, it would be air, air. So, care. While in modern received, it would be air. So just like a long eh, like Emma. Yeah, so it's longer. Care. There's not much of a difference, but anyway. And the other one is ua. So tour can be pronounced as or, tor. Tour, tor. Ua, or. This next sound is quite similar to the schwa. So if we go back to that schwa sound, keep it super relaxed, but just make it longer. I'm not doing anything. Super lazy sound. Not eh. Okay. Relax it. Bird. World. Prefer. And notice those R's are not pronounced. Yeah? Not bird, world, prefer. Bird, world, prefer. As a bonus, to sound more English, you can use as a kind of thinking sound. So each language has its own thinking sound. For example, what is this? Yeah? Once you start using that it sounds more British. Now we have this O sound, so keep it very short and very round. O. Dog. Got. Lot. So O, dog, got, lot. Very round and very short. In a sentence, I forgot a lot. I forgot a lot. The next is ah. There's a nice long sound. Ah. Far. So remember, no ah, not far. Far. It's just that vowel sound at the end. Car. Alarm. How far is the car? How far is the car? Did you notice that? How far is the car? But wait, Emma, you told me there was no R in that word. You pronounced it as far. I'm going to talk about this a little bit later. Now, the next sound. Take that R that we just did, but make it shorter. So we're just dropping the jaw here. Pub. Lunch. Much. A lovely pub lunch. A lovely pub lunch. So make sure you're not opening this too much, like a lovely pub lunch or anything like that. Just drop the jaw. You don't need to open your mouth. Relax your mouth, drop your jaw. A lovely pub lunch. Now we have or, so like that or in dog. Make sure you round your lips, but just make the vowel longer. Or, more, law, law. Important, important. So notice you got or. So mind that length. The law is important. More naturally, the law is important. The law is important. You notice what I'm doing? I'm adding a little r after law. Why am I doing that? We'll talk about that later. Now these two sounds tend to get confused by students quite a lot. So we have it's quite smiley, and a. Set, sat, set, sat. Another one is met, mat, met, smile more, mat, make it wider. Met, mat. I set the table and sat down. I set the table and sat down. The next two sounds that students often confuse are O and O. For example, goat and got, mope and mop. So we have O, and O, mope, mop. I got a goat. I got a goat. O. And the famous two sounds that all students seem to dread is I and E. So that second one, that longer one, E, I always call it the smiley E because you're smiling more. E, seat, seat. And the second one, well, the first one I mentioned, the other one, I usually call it the miserable I because we don't smile and it's very short. I, sit, seat, sit, seat, sit. So it's not just the length that's different here, it's also the position. E, smiley, I, miserable. Take a seat and sit down. Take a seat and sit down. Now you might have already noticed that in English we have long and short vowels. You'll see in the transcriptions that the longer sounding vowels have those two dots, and that just means that it's a longer vowel sound. So for example, oo, ooh, look, luke, look, Luke. Here's another one that learners sometimes confuse. Or, cot, court, cot, court. So that second one is longer. Or. Another one, ah. Cut, cart, cut, cart. So with this one, you're just dropping your jaw. Remember, not like cat, but cut, cart. And the last one, I and E, sit, seat. So this one, the position changes of the mouth as well. I, miserable I, sit. And then the longer, smiley E, seat, sit, seat. Now we're going to get on to some trickier stuff. We're going to look at the two TH sounds. So yes, there are two. We have the voiced and we have the voiceless. The voiced sounds like V and the voiceless sounds like F. So do make sure that you're putting your tongue in between your teeth. And there should be air blowing here. For the voiced one, make sure you're vibrating your vocal cords here. To do that, try and pronounce the vowel so combine them. That's how you get the voiced one. So for the voiced one, we have this, that, these, those. Careful, you're not saying dis, dat, these, those. You'll be understood if you do, but if we're focusing on modern RP and received pronunciation, this, so tongue between the teeth, this, that, these, those. This is where it's really handy to have a mirror, then you can compare your mouth placement to mine in this video. And then the voiceless one, think, thought, thumb, bath. Think, thought, thumb, bath. Now this bath is very interesting because you'll notice that I usually say bath in my videos. I'm going to talk about this more. It's a very, very interesting feature about English accents and England in general. I thought it was them. I thought it was them. Was them. So I'm just sliding my tongue forward. Was them. I thought it was them. Now, if you didn't already know, we have two types of L in English. We have the light L, which comes before a vowel, like love, light, lucky, and then the dark L, which comes after a vowel sound. For example, ball. So I'm not saying ball, I'm not releasing it like a la, a light L, but I'm holding it at the top. Ball, ball, fall, fall, pool, pool. So careful you're not releasing it. Fall, pool. Hold it. So keep the tip of your tongue up. Here, keep it up. Pool, fall. The girl fell. So don't pronounce that R. The girl fell. And hold that L. The girl fell. Now we're going to have a look at that famous English R sound, that R sound. So let's take a look at the word red. Many people who are learning English, they say it's something like red, red, okay, or red. This is when you're using the tip of your tongue here to touch the top of your mouth. However, notice what I'm doing with the English R. Red, red, red. Red. You see the difference? R. I'm touching the top of my mouth with my tongue here, but red, the tip of my tongue isn't touching the top of my mouth. Okay, so I'm going to put my cup of tea down for this part because I need two hands to explain this one. So when you do an English R, notice that the tip of your tongue isn't touching the top of your mouth, like ra, okay? It's down, or it can just be in the middle, kind of floating. So I can say like ra or ra. So it can be behind my bottom teeth, touching my bottom teeth, or it can be in the middle, just not touching the top of your mouth, okay? Because that's how you get that ra sound. The back of your tongue, however, I always explain this as imagining you're eating peanut butter. So you're eating peanut butter, it's stuck to the inside of your teeth up at the top here. So it's on the inside here. It's all stuck and you're using the sides of your tongue here to remove the peanut butter from the inside of your top set of teeth. So your tongue should be in this position. So it's kind of touching at the sides here, up here. So that's how your tongue position needs to be. Your mouth placement, I always describe it as like a duck. So you have this kind of duck mouth, like So you see, I'm doing that mouth placement, that tongue placement with the removing the peanut butter. The tip of my tongue here isn't touching the top. Combine that with the duck mouth. Ra, ra, ra. Red, red, run, run. So careful, it's not touching the top. Run, 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 run. Now this is something very subtle, but it is something very important and it is quite noticeable. Make sure that you're pronouncing the voiced consonants at the end of words with voicing. So what many students do is they tend to soften these and they make them voiceless. So for example, the word bad starts to sound like bat. Be careful, bad, bat. So you're adding voicing to the end. Bad. He's a bad man. He's a Batman. Batman. It was completely unintentional. Dog, duck, dog, g. So you're adding that g, that vibration. Dog, duck. Badge, batch. Badge, batch. Buzz, bus. Buzz, bus. And finally, prove, proof, prove, proof. So really try and make sure you get that voicing at the end if it is a voiced consonant sound. Now in English we have 3 nasal sounds. And which is right at the back here. Imagine you're doing like a g sound, like in go, but you are holding it. G. If you hold it, you get that 3rd nasal sound. Now what tends to be tricky for learners is pronouncing this and at the end of words and distinguishing them. So let's practice. Sim, sin, sing. Sim, sin, sing. Whim, win, wing. Whim, win, wing. So our next sound is w. A lot of students pronounce this either like a v or even a g sound, depending on your native language. I like to think of this as kind of being like vowel sounds, like oo, oo, oo. So nothing is going on back here and nothing is touching here. Oo, oo. Wood, wood. Will, win, win. So I'm not touching, not vin, not win. I would like some water. So not I would like or I would like. I would like. I would like some water. Water. So nothing's touching, not water, water. I would like some water. Now this is a super, super tiny thing, but it makes all the difference. When many learners are speaking English, what they do is they pronounce the d and the t more dental. What I mean by that is when you say d, you say it with your tongue touching the back of your teeth, like do instead of do. We bring it back a little bit, okay? Bring it back more towards what we call the alveolar ridge. That's the part inside your mouth that just starts to go up here, okay? Then you get to the hard palate. The. So do. You hear the difference? So I'm not touching my teeth when I do that d. The same goes with ta. So I don't say tu, but tu. And notice that there's more air in the English t as well. I always tell my students to try and push the air out from your mouth. For some speakers, they try and push it from their lungs, so it's like two. But, don't do that. Just kind of push it from your mouth, like a little kind of explosion. To, do. Team, deem. Team, deem. So not team, deem. I'm not touching my teeth. Team, deem. What do you do? What do you do? So not what do you do, touching my teeth. You'll be understood if you do that, don't worry. But what do you do? It's a little bit further back. Now, there was a really popular video going around some years ago where it was kind of laughing and joking about the British accent. And it was saying something like, it's Tuesday, innit? So notice that we don't say it's Tuesday, but Tuesday. Depending on the variety, so received pronunciation will say Tuesday, Tuesday. However, most speakers will say Tuesday. So that ta and ya in a word, we combine it and it becomes a cha. Tuesday, Tuesday. The same goes with stupid, 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 stupid. The same also happens with da and ya together. So you can say duty, duty, or duty, duty. Now, as I mentioned, in received pronunciation, they will say duty and Tuesday. However, many native speakers in England will more than likely say Tuesday, stupid, duty, and so on. You can also do this in a sentence. So, can't you becomes can't you. Can't you go? Can't you go? And would you like a biscuit? Would you? Would you? Would you like a biscuit? Now, this little thing here is very small, but it will make your life a little bit easier. So when we have ta and r together, what many learners will do is they will try to pronounce them like separate letters, like to-roo, okay? what I want you to do is combine them and say it more like a tr, true, true. So we're doing more of a ch sound than a t sound. True, try. So not try or try, okay? Remember that r? We don't use the tip of our tongue to touch the top of our mouth. Try. And train. So not terrain, train, train. The same happens with d and r. We combine them and we make more of a dr sound, like j. Drew, drew, dry, dry, drain, drain. So true, drew, try, dry, train, drain. So I'm pronouncing it more like a ch and j instead of a d and instead of a t and d. Now, if you remember before, I was highlighting some phrases like the law is, and I was talking like, you notice there's a r in there? This part of the video is going to explain that part. We call it connected speech. So what we do in a sentence is we have words that start with a vowel and end with a vowel, and we connect them together with another sound to make it easier to transition. So for example, go away becomes go away. Go away. So I'm adding that w in there. Go away. We do this because that first vowel in go, o, is a very round shaped vowel. Oo, go. So if your first vowel is very round, oo, then you link with a w. Go away. You can also link with a y sound. They here. They here. They here. We do this because they has more of like a smiley spread vowel. They. So remember we had go, they. So pay attention to your mouth shape. Again, that's why a mirror is important. They are here. Now the third rule is if that first vowel is what I call an in-between vowel. What do I mean by that? I mean it's not oo and it's not e, so it's not round and it's not spread, okay? It's in between. Like where are you? Where are you? Where are you? We add a r sound in there to help link it. An easy way to know if it's linking with a r or not is to see if there is an r in the spelling. If there is an R in the spelling or an RE towards the end of the spelling, then we link it with a R if the next word starts with another vowel sound. We call this the linking R. So if there is an R or an RE at the end of the word, then we can link it if the next word starts with another vowel sound. This is the linking R. However, before with the example, I said the law is. And notice that there's no R there. However, we have that kind of in-between vowel. It's not oo, like the loo or the lee, but the law is in between, right? The vowel's in between. The law is. Because it's one of these in-between vowels, we can link it with a r. And because there's no R in the spelling, we call this an intrusive R. It's kind of intruding, it's invading, shouldn't be there. But it is, and many native speakers in the UK use it. So for example, Emma and John are eating. Emma and John are eating. Emma and John are eating. The first one, there is no R in my name Emma, so this would be considered an intrusive R. However, in R, there is an R there, so we consider this a linking R. Emma and John are eating. If you're interested in learning more about connected speech and how to sound more natural when you're speaking, I do have a full playlist all about connected speech. I'll put that in the description for you. Now, something else that's important is to mind the pronunciation of words and make sure that they are not the American pronunciations. For example, tomato in American English would be more like tomato. Tomato, tomato. Another is herb, herb. Herb, herb. Sometimes vowels change completely. Root, route, route, route. So make sure you become familiar with which pronunciations are considered more American and more British. There are some ways of pronouncing words that were typically more American, however, they've now started sneaking more and become more popular in British English. A good example of this is the word schedule. You'll find that many Brits use the schedule pronunciation as opposed to schedule. So bear that in mind. Now this part of the video just covers some really interesting parts about different accents across England. Some really common things that you will hear that I think will really help you with your listening skills and understanding native speakers. If you ever talk to someone from the UK or you ever visit the UK, I just think these things will be helpful for you to know. So in the north of England, the sound doesn't exist. It changes to So bus becomes bus, pub becomes pub, and so on. Now that sound, that nasal like g, that you hold, that I taught you earlier, some accents do pronounce it with a g coming after it. So thing, thing, sing, sing, and so on. With some accents, that changes to an n when we add the suffix ing. So take a verb, for example, sing. If we say singing, some accents might say it like singing, so a n, singing. For example, the phone is ringing. The phone is ringing, as opposed to the phone is ringing. If you listen, there's really not that much difference between them, but you can see the difference if you look at the person's mouth. There's also something you might hear called th fronting. This is when the th changes to a th. So think becomes think. And also when v becomes v. So for example, mother becomes mother. So I said thanks to my mother. I said thanks to my mother. Now if you remember earlier in the video, I was talking about the word bath and how I say bath. And this is because of something called the trap-bath split. If you're from the south, then you would say the trap-bath split. In the north, we don't distinguish these, and we do say trap and bath with the same vowel. However, in received pronunciation, modern received pronunciation, and most accents in the south of England, they will distinguish the two, and they will say bath with a long vowel. This tends to happen with certain words. For example, grass, grass, path, path, glass, glass, class, class, and so on. So in the north, you will hear that very short ah, and in the south, you will hear that very long ah sound. And the last thing I want to talk about is the glottal stop. No doubt you have heard it used, but you might not know its name. This is in words, for example, like city or city, yeah? Better, better. British, British. So you can do this by using the phrase uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. So that kind of stop that you can feel here is the glottal stop. If we put that in a word, better. So better, better, uh-oh, better, better. You can hear this in the middle of words, as I mentioned, centre. I live in the centre of a city, but you can also use it at the end of words. I sat on the mat instead of I sat on the mat. This is considered quite informal, but it is very common all over the UK, so no doubt you will hear it. If you're interested in learning how to pronounce this sound, I do have a more detailed video about it. I will put that in the description as well for you to check out after watching this one. And that's the end! Hopefully you have learned, just punched my poor plant, you've learned how to do a British accent, how to fake a British accent, whatever title I decide to call this video. This video will be focusing predominantly on the received pronunciation accent. However, I will be drawing comparisons between the received pronunciation accent and the modern received pronunciation accent, because you're more likely to hear modern received over received, despite this being considered more of the standard. So the first thing you can change is by dropping your R's. If we compare this to, say, general American pronunciation, you will hear that they pronounce the sound more, particularly at the end of words. Let's take this word, car. Car. Notice that I'm not saying the R there. I don't say car, car. The same with this one. Here, here. While in American English, it would be more here, here, girl, girl. Ensure that this sound is very, very relaxed. I have a full video all about how to do this sound, as I know it can be tricky, but for now, just know it is very relaxed. Girl. and the R is not pronounced. Here's another. Court, court. Now let's take a look at this one. This is our first sound where we have two different ways to pronounce it. So in RP, you will hear hair, air, air, hair. So it becomes more relaxed. Air, hair. While in modern RP, it just becomes more of one sound, more of a monophthong. Air, hair, hair. So notice it's a little bit flatter. We're not changing from air. It's just one sound. Air, hair. I like your hair. I like your hair. But the key thing here is there's still no R. Here's another one with some differences. Tour, oor, oor. Then relax it again. Oor, tour. Now what you'll hear many modern received pronunciation speakers say is tor, tor. So this oor actually changes to the vowel that we looked at in court. So you might hear, for example, cure becoming cure, tour, tour. Now our final sound, This is what's called the schwa. You've probably heard of it. It's the most common sound used, particularly in British English. Make sure it's super relaxed. Teacher, teacher. So we're not going to try and pronounce that R. Teacher, teacher sounds more American. Teacher, teacher. As soon as you cut that R, it sounds way more English. Now, as a side note, I don't even have this in my own notes, but words that tend to end with ER, AR, or RE, for example, we pronounce them with a schwa if they are on a syllable by themselves and they are a weak syllable. So, as we looked at teacher, we also have center. Now, in the US, they would say center, 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 or doctor, doctor, while in the US they would say doctor, doctor. So let's do some shadowing. Listen closely and repeat. She works here as a teacher in Portsmouth. She works here as a teacher in Portsmouth. Where does the tour car take us? Where does the tour car take us? Now let's look at the second change you can make. You might have noticed this when I was saying the word doctor or doctor. Notice that first vowel is slightly different. So this O is very round and very short. O, O. Shop, shop. Got, got. Keep it short and keep it round. Dog, dog. And our last word, want. So even though this has an A, we're not going to say want, okay? O, keep it round. Want, want. Time to practice your shadowing. I want a dog. I want a dog. And notice I don't say I want a dog, but a dog. A dog. If you'd like to learn more about sentence stress, then I have a full video all about it. I will leave it in the card above and in the description for you. I got it at a shop. I got it. Join them together. I got it at a shop. Shop. Keep it round. I got it at a shop. Now for change number 3. In received pronunciation, you will hear this O. So start really relaxed, and then move to a very round position with your mouth. O, O, O. So our first one is slow, slow, go, go. So keep it very relaxed. O, go, go. Alone. So very weak vowel. Alone, alone. And our final one, road, road. Keep it very relaxed. Row, then round. Road, road. Now in modern RP, you will hear this O being pronounced slightly differently. You will hear it slightly more open. For example, slow becomes slow, slow. So notice it's more open with that first vowel. Slow, slow. The sound really doesn't change all that much, but I just wanted to make you aware of it because I know some of you have very, very good ears. So let's practice. Drive slowly down the road. Join those together. Drive slowly down the road. Drive slowly down the road. I put on my coat because it was snowing. I put on my coat because it was snowing. Point number 4 that you can change. Now I'm going to compare this to general American pronunciation here. What you will hear with this word here is not only will they pronounce the R at the end and say but they will also pronounce that T slightly differently. Now it's not exactly like a duh, but they will tap very quickly at the top of their mouth to make this sound. So it sounds like water, water. This is called the flap or tap T, in case you're interested in researching more about it. However, we don't really use this in words in the UK. You might hear people using it at the end of words, particularly if they're speaking quite quickly, but never in the middle of a word. So you won't ever really hear a Brit saying water, as that sounds a little bit more Australian. So, in received pronunciation, water. War, so a long O, like court. Water, water. City, city. So make sure you're pronouncing that T. City. As opposed to, in American English, city, city. This one's quite similar to water in a way, because we have that T sound in the middle, bet, and then the ending, we don't pronounce the R. Better, better, better. While in American English, it would be more like better, better. And this one as well, a similar thing would happen. Later, later. In the US, later, later. Now a little side note here, again, I don't even have this in my own notes, but in the UK, you may hear speakers changing these T's from a T to a sound that's pronounced more here. This is called the glottal stop, and this is something that you won't hear American speakers do. So water may be pronounced as water, city, city, better, better, later, later. While you won't find many speakers of RP using this in their accent, you will hear it if you ever come to the UK, so it is something definitely to be aware of. So even if you don't do it in your own speech, you will still hear it. So let's practice. I'll see you later. I'll see you late. Get that t. Later. Notice that I'm not touching the back of my teeth when I do this t. So I'm not saying later, later. but do it a little bit further back. Later, later. And make sure there's a good amount of air as well. There's a lot of what's called aspiration with this sound. So make sure there's lots of air. Later. And cut that R as well. I want to move to a better city. I want to move to a better city. City. So in American English, that would be better city. I want to move to a better city. It feels really weird saying that with my pronunciation. Now let's talk about some words that are pronounced differently in the UK compared to in the US. So these are some British and American pronunciation differences in specific words. Let's start with a very common one. Advertisement. 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 Now, something interesting that's happened with particularly younger people in the UK is that they may use the American pronunciation more. So, for example, I would say advertisement. I don't say advertisement. Even though, according to the dictionary and many people that you may ask, they will say advertisement is more British than advertisement. However, I think this is more to do with the amount of American cartoons and TV shows that we were exposed to as children. So we just picked up the accent and many of us say advertisement, even though we are from the UK. So if you hear a Brit using advertisement instead of advertisement, then don't be shocked, because there are many of us who do that. Here's another interesting one. Schedule, schedule. Schedule, schedule. Now again, many Brits may also say schedule. So don't be surprised if you hear Brits, like me, I also say it the American way. This is a really good one. Zebra, zebra. Zebra, zebra. This also goes for our next one, which is the letter of the alphabet. X, Y, Z, we say in the UK. Z, while in the US, they would pronounce this as Z. X, Y, Z. In the UK, vase. So it's a long R. Vase. In the US, vase. Vase. So the vowel changes from R to A, but also the endings change. Vase, there's vibration. Vase, there's no vibration. Now this one is very, very different. Aluminium, aluminium. Aluminum, aluminum. So you know that kind of metal foil that you use to wrap hot food or sandwiches or something? In the UK, we call it aluminium foil, while in the US, aluminum foil. Aluminum, aluminium. They're quite different. Now, if you're familiar with army vocabulary, you will already know that this has two very different ways, and the British one is very strange. The British one is lieutenant. Lieutenant. Don't ask me why there's a "f" in there. Lieutenant. While the American, lieutenant. Lieutenant. This one makes a bit more sense. So we have lieutenant, lieutenant. This is a very common one. Tomato. So mind that second vowel. Tomato. Tomato. While in the US, tomato. So remember that flap T that we looked at. Not tomato. 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 So the vowel changes to may, but also that T changes to that R. Tomato. Tomato, tomato. This one has quite different vowels. Vitamin, vitamin. While in the US, vitamin, vitamin. So again, we have that flap T, vitamin. and also the vowel changes. Vitamin, vitamin. And our final word, herb. So we pronounce the H, like you're fogging up a mirror, herb, but the R is silent. Herb. It's the same vowel that we looked at in girl. If you remember, we cut that R, herb. While in American English, herb. So now this time we remove the H, but we add the R. Herb. 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 Thank you.
You've been learning English for a while and you feel you speak with more of an American accent, or you feel your accent's a mix between British and American and you'd like to change that and speak with more of a British accent, then in this lesson you will learn 3 ways to help you sound more British when you speak English. Disclaimer, by British English I specifically mean received pronunciation and modern received pronunciation. These 2 accents are considered the standard form of English pronunciation in England. Although these 2 accents are considered the standard in England, they are not the only 2 accents to exist. There are hundreds of different accents across the UK as a whole, so keep that in mind, especially if you ever visit the UK. If you don't want to change your accent or you don't believe in changing your accent, then you're very welcome to click off this video and go and watch another one of my English pronunciation lessons, where they're a little bit more general and focus on articulation rather than replicating a specific accent. The reason why I'm doing this lesson is simply because a lot of you have requested it. That is all. Let's begin with number 1, the R sound. British English accents tend to be non-rhotic, while American English accents tend to be rhotic. But what does this mean? A rhotic accent essentially means that you pronounce the R sound when it is written. While in non-rhotic accents, like British English ones, the R tends to be silent if it is after a vowel or towards the end of a word. So for example, in British English, the word car is pronounced without the R. However, in American English, they pronounce it as car. Here's another example. Hard. And lastly, mother. So notice that in American English, we pronounce the R sound very strongly. In British English, we don't pronounce it, it's completely removed. The rules to know when the R is silent in British English are very simple. If you have a vowel and then an R coming after it, like in car, then you remove the R. If you have a vowel, an R, and then a consonant sound coming after it, then you again remove the R, like in hard. If a word ends with ER, OR, AR, or RE, these also have a silent R. So mother is pronounced without the R. The only time you pronounce the R sound is when it's at the beginning of a word, for example, red, or if it's in between vowels, for example, around and arrow. There is only one exception to this rule though. If you know what it is, then comment down below. If you don't, then I'll tell you, it's the word iron. In the UK, we don't say iron, we say iron. So listen carefully to this sentence and repeat. I parked my car near the theatre. I parked my car near the theatre. So notice that all of the R's are silent. Next, we're going to look at 2 very distinct vowel sounds, A and O. In British English, we use the sound A. It's a very short and open sound, like in cat. Imagine you're going to the dentist and you open your mouth wide. A, cat. While in American English, it's more like cat, cat. Keep in mind that I am not from the US, so if my accent is terrible for the American English one, too bad. Now the second sound, O, in British English is very short and very round. O, hot. While in American English, it's a lot longer and a little bit more open. Hot, hot, hot. So let's practice the difference. cat, cat, hot, hot. Now listen carefully to this sentence and repeat. The cat sat on a hot pot. The cat sat on a hot pot. Now the final thing you're going to learn today is the flap T. This is when you say the T sound almost like a D. It's said very, very quickly, like ra. So city sounds like city, and this is more of a feature of American English. So you have city, where we pronounce the T more clearly in British English, and city, city, which sounds more like a D sound, but this is actually the flap T. It's not city, it's not a strong D, it's city, and this is more American English. So words like better sound like better in American English. We don't pronounce that T as a R, we pronounce it as a T sound, and we don't pronounce the R at the end. So better, better, water, 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 later, 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 later. Now listen carefully and repeat. It's better to drink water later. It's better to drink water later. As a side note, although Brits don't tend to use the flap T and say things like water better or water better, which sounds more Australian, what we tend to do is use the glottal T instead. So this is when you pronounce the T here instead of in your mouth. So better sounds like better, water sounds like water, and later sounds like later. So the sentence, it's better to drink water later, sounds like it's better to drink water later. So if you hear someone speaking like that, then they probably are from the UK. And that is the end of today's English pronunciation lesson.